Again, I dare you. I double dare you, mother.
Get busy living. You get busy dying.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
You're gonna need a bigger boat. And here we go.
Okay, so Mickey 17, the latest film from Bong Joon Ho, former Oscar winner, former Best Picture winner in 2019 with Parasite. I think we both really enjoyed that movie. I mean, it's a great film. Got all the praise it deserved, and this is his follow-up, his first English language movie since, I believe, Okja, which was in 2017, a movie I have not seen. So I have only... This is the second English language film I've seen from Bong Joon Ho, besides Snowpiercer, a film that I also really, really love. Long anticipated, long awaited, long delayed. Mickey 17 was delayed a couple times, I think, by Warner Brothers. They weren't quite sure what to do with it. And now it's finally here, and with not much else in the theaters right now, so it's not competing against much, but it's still... The box office is pretty light on Mickey 17 right now. I don't think a lot of people have been flocking to see this film. I was really excited about it going in. I thought it had a great trailer, great premise, Robert Pattinson, and Bong Joon Ho. That's enough to get me in the theater right there. But yeah, what was your what were your expectations going into Mickey 17, Dante?
I was excited going in. I mean, Bong Joon-ho, especially waiting 6 years for this movie, you're just anticipating something really well thought out, really exciting. The premise seemed really interesting from the trailers. And then Robert Pattinson, again, like you said, is just someone that gets me in the theater and gets me excited. I think it's two really good creators at the forefront of it that are artists waiting to tell their story. And tell very original stories, whether it's Robert Pattinson through the characters and roles that he takes on, or Bong Joon-ho in a lot of the movies that he's done. Those were my expectations going in.
Yeah, I would just say right up front, I'm a little mixed on Mickey 17 overall.
Yeah.
There was some stuff that I really enjoyed, and some stuff that I didn't enjoy so much. So I guess we'd start with the good. I really enjoyed the Robert Pattinson performance. I thought he was great, playing multiple versions of himself and making them feel different. It's really hard, I think, to play off of yourself with nothing there. I think he makes you forget that he's actually not acting against anyone. It really feels like there are two of him in the scene.
It's
So
not just his twin he's been hiding.
yeah. So I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the direction from Bong Joon Ho. I thought the film looked really good. I liked some of the shots, especially in the beginning, the space where they're like signing up to become part of the trip, and you get that shot where it's like the big like circular roof of the whatever building they were in. I thought there was some really cool cinematography. Bong Joon Ho, he's great at this kind of stuff. He knows what looks good. He's a very technically proficient filmmaker, and so I don't think going into it, I think you could have expected to see a lot of really well thought out and well crafted shots, which we did. I like the idea, I like the premise. It's based on a book, one I haven't read, but the premise overall, I really enjoyed up to a point. I thought I was really, really engaged with the first half of this movie. The setup, I thought, worked really well. I was totally on board up until the point where I realized that the plot was going to revolve around these creepers, these alien creatures that they discover on this other planet. That's where I started to kind of waver a little bit on the plot, and I thought by the end it really started to lose me. I thought this movie could have been shorter. It's only 2 hours and 12 minutes, but I thought it drug pretty significantly in the back half. I would have liked a lot more time with the two Robert Pattinsons playing against each other and getting up to hijinks. I thought that was going to be the premise of the film is we can't get caught. There's two of us. It's in this world it's illegal to have doubles. And so I thought that's really what we were going to hinge on, and that was resolved pretty quickly. And then we were left to kind of unravel a whole another plot thread that I didn't really see coming. So I was pretty mixed, generally speaking. What do you think?
Yeah. Just to harp on that doubles thing, I thought that had a lot more potential. I think they go into a whole exposition and backstory behind it, a whole flashback sequence, and then, oh, it's doubles. You guys are bad for being doubles. That's not allowed. Yes, I just found that out through the expedition in the movie. I think the first half of the movie I thought was a lot better than the second half of the movie. I think it's funny that you say Warner Brothers had a hard time or wasn't really sure what to do with it because I completely I don't know what to think of it. I don't, it's a very confusing movie, and not in the fact that it's highbrow or asks you a lot of questions going out of it, just in the fact that it feels like something you've totally seen and done in a maybe a worse way or more approachable way, but also feels like nothing you've seen at the same time. And I think some of the premises that it brings up in the first act, or some of the direction where the movie you think that it's going, it just doesn't capitalize on it. It's not that it subverts your expectations such as Parasite did. It's more that it just kind of takes what it showed you and just keeps moving the story in a different direction, which never really gave me much to chew on throughout the movie. I think, like you said, the cinematography was excellent. I think, especially in the first half of the movie, again, Robert Pattinson in the snow, that first shot of him laying down was just a perfect shot. And some of the stuff set in land in the flashbacks with him and Steven Yeun was really good. Some of the shots of, again, him and the space station signing up, I thought were really interesting and painted a picture of the world and where we were at that time. And then the movie kind of drags you through the spaceship, and I think as much as the set is trying to show you that the spaceship maybe doesn't have the funding that it's promised behind it, I think it made for some very boring set pieces and didn't allow for great cinematography to shine through. It didn't allow for any shots that blew your brain or made you really, really enamored by the movie because of the set piece that was there. And I think that's something that's kind of a shame because we just saw in Parasite and in other movies, Snowpiercer, other Bong Joon Ho movies, Okja, which I have seen. I just think he's really good at capitalizing on the set and capitalizing on the things around him and playing off of the scenery around him. And I just don't think we got a lot of that for the whole second half of this movie. I thought it really drug and really became something where I wasn't sure what I was watching, and the more I think about it, the more disappointed I am by it. You hear a lot about how the movie was confusing beforehand, or Warner Brothers wasn't sure how to market it, and then you get the good tomato score and you get good word of mouth, and it kind of reignited my expectations for it. And I think I was a victim of my own high hopes coming in. I didn't dislike the movie whatsoever, but I didn't feel impacted by it, and I don't think it's something I'm going to take with me to the end of this year.
No, I think this is gonna end up like midway through my year-end list of, let's say, 120 films from 2025. I don't see this placing very high. I gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd. Generally speaking, was entertained, and I didn't have enough bad things to say about it to rate it any lower than a 3. But it's a pretty middling 3-star review for me. I think we should maybe talk about the plot just a little bit more. It revolves around Robert Pattinson's character Mickey, who is an expendable. He applies to be an expendable working on this spaceship, which basically means that he does all the super dangerous tasks for this spaceship, which is basically a colony mission to go to another planet and start a colony on another planet. And Robert Pattinson's character applies for the expendable program, which means that essentially he does all the super dangerous tasks that no one else wants to do, and when he inevitably dies, they use a human printer to reprint his body. They put all his memories back into that body, and it's just the new version of him. We meet Mickey 17 in the movie. He's our main character. He's the 17th version of Mickey. And on one of his missions, he's assumed dead, but he's not. And so another version of him is printed out while Mickey 17 is still alive, which is illegal. You're not allowed to have more than one copy of a person at a time. So that kind of is the inciting incident of the film. But like we said earlier, it's not really what the movie revolves around. We end up revolving around this colony kind of butting heads with this alien species on the planet they intend to settle, and that's really where it started to lose me there. The kind of dynamics between the humans and the aliens, I don't know. I just wasn't really invested in that. I think this is probably a good time to talk about the supporting cast, which I found quite appealing. Mark Ruffalo doing his best Trump imitation that he could possibly do. It's not quite an imitation of Trump, I guess, but the character is very, very obviously supposed to be Donald Trump. And I thought Mark Ruffalo was having a great time in this movie. He's completely hamming it up in every single scene he's in. I thought everything Mark Ruffalo did worked pretty well for me, just on the level of a fun, engaging performance from Mark Ruffalo. Kind of reminded me of his Poor Things role a little bit, where he's just completely going over the top in every scene. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed Toni Collette too. I thought she has been doing this kind of mode for a little while now. This kind of like um, daffy, sort of prissy um, woman who just is like super kind of out there too. I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe exactly what she's doing, but she's doing something we've seen Toni Collette do multiple times, and I think she's pretty successful as well.
I think Ruffalo's kind of where the movie lost me, to be honest. I think he's just kind of been hit or miss in some things in recent years to me. I think I loved him having it up in Poor Things. I loved him in Dark Waters, taking on a more serious role. But I think he's just been kind of hit or miss for me, and I wasn't interested in watching that character on screen because I think the humor without him on screen was funny enough and quirky and the situational humor of it. And I felt like his line deliveries in a movie full of people who are feel out of place and their deliveries are out of place and talk awkwardly, I felt he added to that and not in a good way. I felt like he was just a stereotypical obstacle and a character of the times right now that I wasn't interested in seeing after all the initial premises of the movie came in. I was way more interested in Mickey's plot, in all the supporting characters, in Stephen Yen. Like I was bought into what they had pitched me, and I was cool with him as kind of a background character, Ruffalo. And I think when he kept coming in and returning to each scene, it was like, oh no, he's probably the second character in this movie after Mickey, honestly, on screen time, and I wasn't a huge fan of that.
Right, and I think if the Mark Ruffalo character doesn't work for you, then this movie is really not going to work for you. He
Yeah.
is the biggest character besides Mickey 17, besides Robert Pattinson. And so if you're not on board with that performance, I really don't can't see you enjoying this movie. I kind of enjoyed this movie despite the fact, or I kind of didn't enjoy this movie that much despite the fact that I did kind of like the Mark Ruffalo performance. We also have Naomi Aki, who plays Robert Pattinson's character's girlfriend. I thought she was fine. She's just doing like a regular kind of standard performance for her. She's not doing anything crazy. She's probably the most like leveled and grounded performance in the movie, but she doesn't really get a whole lot to do. She's kind of just the girlfriend who is can be a little unhinged sometimes, but she doesn't really do all that much. I thought she could have been used a lot better, and I thought Steven Yen as well, who's barely in this movie, maybe gets 5-10 minutes. I'm sure he had a much bigger role in a different cut of this film, and I would have liked to see that cut.
Yeah, I think he's had such a good couple of years through voice acting on Invincible and other shows, and on like Beef on Netflix, which I thought he was just absolutely tremendous in. And I'm cool with him being there. Like I'm cool with him eating up screen time as a supporting actor, which I think he does so well. I think Nasha as the girlfriend was fine. Naomi Aki was fine. I wish they kind of went more into the conflict between, if I'm saying this correctly, Anna Maria Vartolome's character and her who plays Kai. I think that set up for a really interesting conflict between the two Mickeys and their potential love interest spanning out of Nasha, and it just kind of went nowhere with that. And I think there was, I'm gonna keep repeating myself, but a lot of stuff in this movie that I wanted to see continued upon that just kind of fizzled out for the saving the planet plot line, and I think it was in disservice to the other characters that were set up.
Yeah, I agree. I totally wanted to see that plot line develop more with Kai and Nasha, them kind of butting heads, because at a certain point, when we get two Mickeys, one Mickey, even though he's dating Nasha, is obviously showing some affection towards Kai, and now there's two of them, so she kind of makes a bargain to say, I won't rat you out if you let me have Mickey 17. I thought that was going to be kind of where the plot was going to go, and
Right.
the conflict was going to revolve around, and it's resolved very quickly. They resolved that in about 5-10 minutes, so they can move on to other stuff. The plot's a little meandering. It takes a while to really kind of get moving onto what we're actually like. What is the conflict of this story? And I couldn't get on board towards the end. So I'm a little baffled by the critical reception to this movie. I think maybe because it's a Bong Joon Ho film, because it's starring Robert Pattinson, it's being given some grace that it otherwise wouldn't. I don't know if that's really fair to say. I mean, obviously some people are just enjoying it more than I am, but I mean, I thought David Ulrich's review from IndieWire, that kind of just blew my mind a little bit. He called it the best, Bong Joon Ho's best English language movie, which I don't think I haven't seen Okja, so I'm not sure where I would rank Okja versus this movie. But Snowpiercer, I think, is probably Bong Joon Ho's second best film in my opinion. It's really a lot better than this, a lot more generally
Snowpiercer's,
entertaining.
yeah, it uses its set more interestingly. I think it connects to its premises and to its messaging much better. And I think it doesn't feel like a Adam McKay movie.
Yeah, the humor in this movie is a little wacky. I think some of it landed for me. I mean, that's the story of this movie for me. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. Same with the humor. Some of the humor I thought landed decently well. Some of it felt really flat. So I'm not sure what the reason for that was there. I think there's a very different cut of this movie out there somewhere that we will never get to see. It was reported that they
Yeah.
spent about, I think, an extra $30 million on reshoots for this film after it was already completed. So that might have something to do with the fact that the plot feels a little wonky. I would be very interested to know if Bong Joon Ho got final cut on this film, or if it's a case of the studio coming in and kind of reworking things to fit something that they would like to see instead. So I'm not really sure on that. I'm not sure if there is a lot of research to be done about that topic. I mean, I think it's pretty hard to find, generally speaking, but to me, that's what it feels like. Is it feels like either studio interference or just creatives at war with each other and just kind of creating something that just doesn't feel like much of anything, really, to me.
It doesn't feel like 6 years of Bong Joon-ho's work to me.
Right.
It doesn't feel like a fully fleshed out, like hitting on all cylinders, connecting from front to back, exploring all of its themes and all of its plot lines. I think that's something like, again, it's not fair to compare damn near any movie to Parasite, but I think that's something that Parasite did so well. I think it's something Snowpiercer did well. I think it's something Memories of Murder did well. Like, I think it's something he does well, is that he capitalizes on his own momentum in movies. And I just didn't feel that in this movie. I didn't feel momentum. I didn't feel. I got about 40, 45 minutes in, and I just kind of wondered where we were going, and the movie didn't give me anything to get me excited. I thought it was fine while I was watching it, but it didn't give me something to really latch onto beyond a really good Robert Pattinson performance.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best part of this movie is the Robert Pattinson performance. But I think overall, yeah, it just kind of
Absolutely.
lost some momentum along the way. Like you said, Bong Joon Ho, I think one thing you can really expect from his movies, especially his work in the past 10, 15 years, is well crafted, meticulously thought out narratives. From Snowpiercer to Memories of Murder to Parasite, those are all films that the story is the main element there. Like the plot is really what we should be focusing on, and not so much kind of one great performance or the setting that we're in or CGI, alien monsters. It's really about the writing. I think where it should start with Bong Joon Ho's other films. It starts with the script, and his films are always super, I think, well thought out and meticulously crafted before he ever even shoots them. So
Yeah.
the story being a little bit more meandering here, and I think not really grabbing me and not being just not as strong as his other work, was a little surprising to me. I was expecting a little bit more from this movie personally, but I love all of his other work I've seen, so my expectations were a little bit higher for this film.
Yeah, and I felt like I had reasonable expectations if I watched it a month ago, and I felt like that late surge of really good reviews uh, gave me what I hoped for a year ago. In that, like, I'm hoping for like something that's challenging and makes me think and pushes the boundaries of what we know for this weird, quirky sci-fi that he's creating, and it just didn't deliver that. It felt like he saw Don't Look Up, like all of us did that one holiday
Mm.
season, and that he tried to say he could do it better. And I guess he did. You know, I guess it's better than that. Um, but
It
I
does feel a
didn't.
little bit like the humor in Don't Look Up. It's really some of it works and some of it just really falls
Yeah,
flat.
it felt like Ruffalo was ripped right from that movie. It felt like the themes and premises of Planet Destruction were ripped from that movie. It just felt something that I'm not saying that it's him copying Don't Look Up, but I am saying that it reminds me a lot of that movie where you're just expecting something more than what you got, and it delivers on a lot of those same themes that just kind of fall flat.
Yeah, we'll see what Bong Joon Ho does next. He obviously had all the juice in the world coming off of Parasite. I don't think this movie's really gonna hurt him as far as whatever his next project is going to be. I think he'll still be able to get it made. I don't think he's going to be put in director jail for this or anything like that. But it will be interesting to see the box office return from this film because it's being reviewed decently well, but it's no one is seeing it. I think it's made like $10 million at the box office this weekend, and it cost what $150 million to make, something in that range. So
Yeah.
if even if it makes its money back, I think it's still going to be a loss for Warner Brothers financially. So we'll see how they respond to that. Warner Brothers obviously really needs hits right now. They're going through a whole financial crisis and kind of overhaul at that company. So they really have been just trying to put out stuff that they know is going to make money. Bankrolling this film from Bong Joon Ho, it's really kind of strange and not not like a really crowd pleasing film is kind of an interesting move from them. So we'll see what
Yeah.
Bong does in the future. If he works with Warner Brothers again, if he goes independent back to like his Parasite days, or what happens. I think I saw an interview with him where he said his next film he wants to do is a some sort of horror film. So I think that's promising right there. But we'll
It's
see what
yeah.
he means by that. I mean, something in the vein of Memories of Murder would be really cool to see again from him. Um, but we'll have to wait at least a couple more years to find out what it's going to be.
It'll be interesting to see what the fallout of this movie is, and what I just feel like it's one of those movies that's gonna have some news articles written about it a couple months from now. That there was a different cut, that there was studio troubles, that some of the actors didn't like the script, whatever it's gonna be, right? There's gonna be something I think that falls out from this movie, and I'm not really sure with the reception being what the reception is, which is pretty good. The box office doesn't match. I think a lot of that is a testament to the trailers not really speaking to anyone unless you like movies and like Bong Joon Ho. I don't
Right.
think there's something that you can market with this movie, and I think it was in the hands of some of the worst marketers in the world, Warner Brothers. So I'm not sure. I'd be excited to see what Bong Joon Ho can do next because I still have faith in him as a director. I absolutely love that he's pushing original ideas. I really hope that this is, regardless of how I felt about it, I hope this is the movie he wanted to make fully, because it is an original movie and it is something with again, I think a premise that we both absolutely love, and it just doesn't head in the direction that we wanted it to. But who are we to say what Bong Joon Ho is to do? I think that's what makes him such a good director, and I think with the misses come the hits. With the directors like these, the directors like a Bong Joon Ho, like a Shyamalan, like some of these directors that take bold and completely new choices. I think sometimes it's not always going to hit for everybody, and that's okay, because I'm sure the next one will.
Yeah, I think I need to. If really what I took away from this film is I need to go through the rest of Bong's filmography and kind of see where this fits in. If this is
Right.
more like an Okja or something like Mother or Barking Dogs Never Bite. I don't, from what I know about Mother and Barking Dogs Don't Bite, I don't think this really fits in with that aesthetic or that those themes too much. I think that's more of like early work, something you could associate more closely with like The Host or Memories of Murder. But Okja, I think just from what the premise is, revolves around relationships with
It's
humans and
quirky,
animals.
and yeah,
Yeah, have you seen it?
it's really quirky, and it has some similar themes to the animals on the planet in this movie. So you can kind of see the same person writing the script, but far in a departure in quality for what Okia is. I think Okia is a really good, just hits on all cylinders for me again, and is well thought through and delivers on all of its premises. I think there are some characters in Okia that you'll relate to Tony Collette in here too.
Mm.
I think she kind of encapsulates what some of the characters are in that movie too.
Yeah, I wonder if this will be considered kind of the black sheep or the one outlier in his filmography, kind of, in 15, 20 years when we can look back on his career as a whole a little bit more. But as of now,
Yeah.
I think he's still obviously one of the best filmmakers currently working. He's made tons of great films. I just love his aesthetic, the way he goes about shooting films. I like the stuff that he's interested in too. The themes of it's a lot of revolving around capitalism and kind of and society and money in society. That's not, I think, strictly what he's focused on, but if you go look at the course of his filmography, that theme is apparent. I think throughout all the films that I've seen of his, anyway, is that kind of what are we doing either to our environment or to our society through kind of the endless pursuit of progress or of money, things like that. So I'm interested to see what he does next.
He's got a lot of goodwill with us,
Definitely.
regardless. And I think even in again, I feel bad because I don't have many thoughts on this movie besides the negative ones, and that doesn't mean I had a huge negative experience because I think a lot of the movie I did like, but it just left me not feeling much. And so all I have to say is that it left me not feeling much, right? Because that's what matters to me at the end of the day. But just still original choices, great cinematography, interesting premises, and I think a director that has proven time and time again in his past that he can capitalize on a lot of the things that he sets up on and a lot of the themes. I think he's still very in touch with the stories that he wants to tell, and the themes that he wants to portray in his movies, and we will both be there opening weekend, whatever's next.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you said there about there was some stuff that I enjoyed in this movie, but I keep going back to the things I didn't enjoy. I think they stood
Yeah,
out to me a lot more than the stuff I did enjoy. There's definitely movies on the other end of that spectrum that while there was stuff that I didn't like, I really focus on the things that I did. That kind of the good outweighs the bad in some of the in films kind of in this range. And to
yeah.
me, it was kind of the opposite. I think the bad outweighed the good a little bit, or at least kind of balanced it out pretty close to even. So that's not a great endorsement of the film, I would say. I don't know if I could really recommend this to that many people. I wouldn't really recommend like my parents to see this. I saw this with some friends and we all had similar opinions on it of, some was good, some wasn't great. So I don't know who I could really recommend this to other than someone who is invested in the career of Bong Joon Ho or
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson.
I'm not sure who it's for other than that, other than someone who's invested in these actors, or in Bong Joon-ho already. I'm not sure who it was made for or who I could recommend this to. I'm not sure how I could pitch this to someone because a lot of the pitch becomes obsolete through the movie and becomes something that you don't need to focus on throughout the movie. I think like we've seen some great Bong Joon-ho thrillers, but turning it into a thriller with the two Mickeys would be something, right? Something I
Yeah,
could grasp onto or something that I could pitch. A man who's signed up for replication goes wrong. Simple pitch, right? And it's from the director of Parasite. I think saying it's from the director of Parasite with this movie only hurts it. If you were pitching it to the common audience that probably saw Parasite in that great award season in 2019.
definitely already I think gets your expectations too high and it makes you think
Yeah.
that this might be something that it's not going to. Anything else to say here before we wrap it up?
No, I was just gonna tell you that's all I got in it. I think we both have similar sentiments on this movie. Maybe it makes for not the most interesting episode of our podcast either, when we're both just kind of agreeing on everything that we're saying. But I think we're both glad for original movies and glad that this is something to kind of bring you back into the theaters after Oscars season and keep that momentum going strong. But I really hope some of the movies I saw, and this is a little bit off topic, but some of the movies I saw in the trailers, I think like Sinners, the new Ryan Coogler movie, was something where I don't think the marketing team knows what to do with it. And I hope we don't get more of these throughout the year, where it's the marketing team doesn't know what to do. It either comes out to really good or really bad reception, and it just leaves audiences confused or wanting more, wanting less. However, it leaves us, I think, that what's going on with Mickey 17 maybe isn't great for the greater good of movies, with its box office not succeeding that well, with the reception being a little bit overselling it for the movie. It is original film, and that is great. But I think a lot of the stuff surrounding it only muddles it and muddles its place, and I hope we don't have a lot of that this year. I hope we can capitalize on some of the great movies that are being pitched to us or promised to us throughout 2025.